record here.
It's annoying.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it for sure. Definitely a little bit of a learning curve for sure. Let me get a quick fist of five. So how are you guys feeling about Git and what we went over yesterday? So 5 being you're an expert, 1 being I don't even know how to open my terminal. So how are we feeling overall? Some 2s, some 3s. Okay. Yeah, that's totally cool. That's right where you guys should be anyway. So Git is one of those things, like we mentioned yesterday, it's one of the tools that you're going to use like on a daily basis. You know, you're going to be eating and breathing and sleeping Git, but just kind of getting up and running and getting comfortable with it will take a minute. So you're definitely where you should be. This morning, for this morning's lesson, what I want to do is I kind of reconfigured it. So we're going to do a little bit of some review that we didn't get to in yesterday's lesson. So we're going to create a local repo. We're going to push it to you guys' GitHub account. It'll just be like a dummy repo for practice. And so hopefully that'll give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions and hopefully reinforce just kind of the basic Git workflow that you guys will be going through day in, day out. Before we do that, I want to do a quick check. So yesterday we forked and cloned the student repo, and I just wanted to do a quick check and make sure that everyone has their origin and their upstream connected properly. So can someone come on mic and describe the difference between origin and upstream as it refers to our student repo? Can someone give us a quick recap of that? What's the difference between origin and upstream? Jason?
Sure. Upstream is the original, and origin is the one that we have pulled down and placed onto our local machine.
Yeah, that's perfect. So do you remember, the first thing I want you guys to do is, I'll put these instructions into Slack. CD into your remote repo, the class repo. And then will somebody put into Slack the command to check the remote URLs that are connected to a given repo? Yeah, so Jason's on top of it. Yeah, so once you CD into your class repo, go ahead and run that git remote-v. And you guys should have 4 URLs listed, right? So you should have 2 for origin, 1 push, 1 fetch, and 2 for upstream, 1 push, 1 fetch. So how to CD to class repo? So Sanaz, are you asking how to get to the repo that you cloned yesterday locally on your machine?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay. Do you remember when we cloned the repo yesterday? We cloned your version of it from GitHub. Do you recall? Okay. Do you recall where you put that directory?
I don't know.
Okay. So if you recall yesterday,
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
Desktop.
it's okay. So this is one suggestion.
Same thing. I did it yesterday, but I don't remember where I put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is it's all good. We'll figure this out. But this is one humble suggestion I had to maybe put it on your desktop, just so we all would kind of know where it is. So I'm assuming that you guys either put it on your desktop or in your home directory. So if you go into terminal with CD tilde, so I'm going to put that into Slack. So remember that a tilde is going to go to your home directory.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that you guys either put it on your desktop or in that home directory. So go ahead and CD tilde, and then if you want to do an ls, and and then see if you see that WDI remote repo there.
No, I do not.
Okay, so let's do this. How many of you guys give me a quick thumbs up on camera if you were able to CD into your repo and see the 4 URLs? Okay, great. If you either don't have 4 URLs in your repo, or if you can't find where you put your repo, I want you to shoot a Slack to Christine. It's not mission critical right now, but we want to get that figured out by the end of the day. So just shoot Christine a quick Slack and we'll move forward. We'll get with you at break time or lunch or something and get that configured.
What was it that was supposed to be inside of it? I think I may have found it.
Yeah, so if you cd into the repo, and I'll put this into Slack, if you run git remote-v, oops, misspelled that. If you run git remote-v, I'll share my screen real quick and show you guys what I have. And the reason I want to, I think everyone was pretty much all good on homework, but I think some folks may have not set their upstream or something. So we just want to make sure that we get that figured out so you guys are able to pull new assignments and stuff. Let me share my screen and I'll show you guys what it should look like. So if you guys can see my terminal, I'm going to go into my, so this is my version of the repo. And if you do a git remote-v, let me make this a little bigger, you should see 4 URLs. Now, your 2 origins instead of GA students, this should have your GitHub username. I have GA students because I push and pull directly to the master, to the repo to push lessons and assignments. But you guys, this should be, your name. So, this should be Mark Wright or something like that. But you should have 4. You should have 2 origin links and then 2 upstream links. So if you have those 4, you're all good. No worries. I think we're in good shape.
What if we have the GA students?
For your origin or your upstream?
Looks like both.
You have GA students for the origin?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, shoot Christine a Slack with that. So what may have happened, instead of cloning your forked version, maybe you
I cloned the upstream version.
Okay, and that's okay. Remember that we can blow this stuff up at any time. So what we may do is just, blow up the whole folder. Well, actually, if you have work in it, we may want to save your work, but we can always just re-fork and clone this stuff as much as we want. But if you wouldn't mind, just shoot Christine a Slack and give her kind of a status update. And, we'll get all this figured out. It's not mission critical for anything we're doing this morning. Actually, Matt has a good suggestion. You could also run the git remote set URL origin command. Then after origin, if you want to go to your cloned version in GitHub and copy that SSH URL, and you can just update the origin URL that way. So maybe try that. Again, this isn't like mission critical to hop into the lesson. Just want to do a quick check and make sure that we were all set up. So just to be redundant, if you aren't seeing 4 URLs, 2 for origin, 2 for upstream, just shoot a quick note to Christine and we'll make sure to get that figured out by the end of the day today. I'm going to stop sharing. Any other questions about that before we move onward and upward?
Yeah, I have a question. What if you have 6 lines? You have those 4 links, and then I have 2 other messages that say upstream fetch and upstream push. Is that normal?
Sorry, tell me again the 6 URLs that you have.
Well, they're not really 6 URLs. I have 4 URLs, but besides those, I have 2 other lines.
Yeah, that's correct. So
Okay.
You should have 2, everyone should have this. You should have 2 origin URLs.
Yep.
You have a fetch to pull new information. You also have a push to push new information to your origin. Remember that the origin is your cloned version up in GitHub. So you can push, you can pull, you can do whatever you want to that one. The upstream, you should also have a fetch and a pull. A fetch and a push. But for your upstream, you don't have permission to push anything to the upstream. So you have that URL. It's kind of given to you by default, but it's not really going to do anything because you don't have the permission to push any files there. But yeah, you should have, out of the box, when you set these up, it'll give you a fetch and a pull URL.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're all good.
Are there quotes after git remote set URL origin?
There are no quotes. You can just paste in that URL directly.
Command not found.
Okay, do you want to share your screen real quick, Dana?
Sure.
And then again, this isn't something we need to tackle right now. Just wanted to like do a quick check-in with you guys, and so we can worry about this a little bit later today.
Are you seeing this one?
Okay, so instead of get, let's put GIT there.
Oh, thank you. I did that all morning. Yay!
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any more questions before we move forward? Great. Okay. So I have some good news and some bad news this morning. Do you guys want the bad news or the good news first?
Bad news.
Bad news first.
Bad news? If you want to see the bad news, let's get a thumbs up for bad news. Okay. Well, here's the bad news. That was my drum roll, by the way. The bad news is there is no bad news. There's only good news this morning, and that good news is we're not installing anything today. So, woo, yeah, there are no installs. We're just doing Git commands. We're going to learn how to create branches. We're going to learn how to deal with merge conflicts. And then this afternoon, we're going to play around with CSS, and then you guys will have outcomes. So hopefully today will be a little bit more interactive, a little bit more fun. I'm sure we'll have some hiccups along the way. That's perfectly normal. This kind of stuff is pretty, this is pretty dense material. And even in class, it can be a little tricky, to debug stuff. The in-class program is 12 weeks. The remote program is 13 weeks, mainly because we add in a little bit of buffer time because this stuff is hard enough as it is, much less with this remote experience and trying to convey this stuff remotely. So we're right where we should be. We're all good. But hopefully today we'll not have to be like configuring stuff as much. We can just focus on the skills that we need to operate Git and GitHub effectively. I put the lesson plan into Slack, into our channel. So if you want to follow along with that, I'll also be putting in screenshots of each section as we go along if you just want to focus on Slack instead of following along in the README. But our objectives for today are right out of the gate, we're going to practice using Git to push up to a GitHub repo. So we didn't quite get the opportunity to practice that skill yesterday, so we're going to do a little bit of a review this morning. We'll also review the basic Git commands, git init, add, commit, push, pull, and clone. We're going to go through what a branch is in Git. We're also going to learn how to create, merge, and delete branches on local repositories. We'll describe how branching and merging allows for collaboration during development. And then we're going to take a look at resolving merge conflicts, which inevitably arise. With you guys as group projects, you're probably going to be tackling these frequently, and this is the place to learn how to deal with them. Not to mention in your development workplace and careers, when you're working with teams on different schedules and such, maybe even different time zones. These things frequently come up. You'll have conflicts. Maybe you don't have the newest version of the code base. So we want to get comfortable with how to tackle those merge conflicts when they arise. And so we'll start with that today. Quick review of Git basics. So I want to do a quick recap of yesterday. If someone wants to come on mic, excuse me, I'd love to hear if you can describe what is the most common workflow for creating save points while working locally. So what are like maybe the 3 basic steps that we've gone through, 3/4, to create a new Git repository with version control? And then what's the process when we want to track those changes as we go through our day? Someone want to come off mic and discuss those? Sean, let's hear from you, buddy.
I can say it aloud. I have not actually performed it
It's okay. That's what we're going to do all morning, so it's all good.
But add, commit, and comment. There's a command, I guess, that you can do to add and comment at the same time. What is it? Git add -am.
Yeah, -am. Kind of the quick and dirty way. So what is the command that we run when we first create a new directory and we want to have Git track the changes and such? What's kind of the first command we need to run if we want Git to track? Okay, great. Yeah, I see that in Slack. So yeah, so I see a couple of Git inits. That's absolutely correct. So that's kind of the first command that we need to run to instantiate that Git hidden folder and to get the Git software to start tracking our changes. That's awesome. Let me ask the second question, and if someone wants to come off mic and volunteer to answer this. Can someone describe the fork/clone model and how it's used for homework submission? So you don't have to go into the homework details, but based on what we walked through yesterday in the GitHub lesson, the GitHub lesson, can someone describe fork versus clone, maybe how they're similar and how they're different? And if someone wants to come on mic and...
Hey.
I will. Okay.
Go ahead.
Brad, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I was going to say, first you pull from the upstream master, or the fork and clone. Fork is basically you're creating a copy of the master that resides on your own repository remotely on GitHub. And then you clone that to your local computer. So you have a local version, and you're working off of your local version, and you're adding, committing, or pushing to your own remote version on GitHub.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, so if you guys can kind of like take that away from forking and cloning, they're both copies, but a fork still lives up in the GitHub cloud in your repository. And the clone is something that a copy that you make locally on your machine. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks. Sweet. All right. Well, let's move forward. So this morning, I'll probably be sharing my screen quite a bit because we're going to do a little bit of a code along. So I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing on my machine, and then you guys can follow along as well. So I just want to remind you that when I share my screen, this may be the same for you guys, but I can only see like 4 faces down at the bottom, unfortunately. I can't see the whole Brady Bunch situation. So if you get stuck, if you get in a snag, either hit me up in Slack or again, feel free to hit up Christine as well, and we'll try to get you guys situated. So let's do this. I'm going to put kind of our first steps here into Slack. And we'll get started. I'm going to share my screen, so look out for that. And I'm going to share my entire desktop. So I'll have my lesson README up here on the left. I'm going to shrink that just a little bit. And I can put these commands into Slack as code if that's going to be helpful. Then I have my terminal up here. And I'll keep the Slack window open right here so I can keep an eye on you guys and if you have any questions or anything. The first thing I'm going to do is a Command K. And that just like clears my terminal. I just want to like make it nice and clean here. So I'm also going to CD to my desktop. So if you guys want to do that as well, let's go ahead and CD to your desktop because we're going to create a dummy repo. And let's just put it on the desktop for now. Just so we know where everything is. So I'll put that into Slack. So once you CD onto your desktop, go ahead and make a directory called test repo. This is going to be where we're doing our dirty work this morning. I will do that here as well. And then one important thing that I forget quite frequently is I actually need to cd into that directory. I'm really bad about that. And then I end up like git initting my entire desktop or something. It's not a good look.
Hey, Mark, I'm not, are you, oh, no, never mind.
Cool, glad to help. Go ahead and cd into the test repo. And then once you do that, again, you can put this command into Slack. We just talked about it. What's the first command that we need to run to get Git to start tracking our changes in a given repo or directory and such? Yeah, git init, perfect. So you probably guessed our next command. Go ahead and git init once you're in the test repo directory. And we'll go ahead and get some version control working. So I'm going to cd into my test repo. And then we'll do a git init. Nice. And then hopefully you guys see something similar to this. You should see a message initialized empty Git repository. And then you should have your own path, obviously. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up in Slack if you're seeing this message. Git init init. Yeah, then Eric makes a really good point. So he points out that ls-la will show the hidden files, and it will also, just kind of confirm that that .git folder exists. So you can do an ls. Actually, if you want to do a capital A, that's also like a more concise way to do it. ls space lowercase a. That'll show you, I think Dana mentioned this yesterday. So most directories will have a path to the root or the home directory, and it'll also have a path to like the directory above it. And if you want to do ls-A, it'll just get to the nitty-gritty and show you everything except those paths. But cool, so I have a .git directory, so I know that it's hidden, and I know that it exists. You can also, like, just for funsies, if you want to cd into that directory, I don't know if you guys have done that before, and then do an ls. So the hidden directory, there's actually some, some guts going on in there, some different folders, some different devices that will manage kind of the version control and keep track of changes. So it is a living, breathing thing in our directory now. I'm going to cd up out of there. Cool. So if you don't mind, I think I have 11 thumbs up on the give me a thumbs up if you see this message, initialized empty Git repository. So go ahead and give me some thumbs up, and I'll know that we're in a good spot to move forward. Ooh, great. We got 17 folks. Very nice. So the next step, the next thing we're going to do is let's practice adding a file to our repo, to our directory. So the first thing I want you guys to do is let's touch. We're going to call this file just a.txt. Nothing fancy. So go ahead and run touch.a.txt from the command line. And then if I want to confirm that, I can do like an ls, just make sure that it's in there. What I want you guys to do kind of consistently as we go through this code along this morning, and this is also in the snapshot that I put into Slack, is I want you guys to take note of your prompt. So yesterday we created that hidden file, that git prompt file, and we put some configuration in there. Now, my command line is going to look a little bit different just because I have like older kind of other preferences that I've set up. But the concept is the same. So when I first, if you look at my terminal, when I first did my git init, suddenly my terminal output, the display changed. It showed this on master. So now that git is operating on this directory and tracking the changes, now it's going to tell me which branch that I'm on. So give me a thumbs up if you guys see the branch information in your terminal. Do you guys see like an on master? Do you guys have that working? Okay, cool. Just want to make sure because I think maybe one or two things may be a little off, a little different from my version of terminal. The other thing,
to be clear, I'm not supposed to have on master on my terminal, right?
I just saw a thumbs up from some folks. Give me a thumbs up in Slack because I can't see everyone.
Mine has master in parentheses with a hashtag percentage sign.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just figured it was the same thing, just it showed up differently.
Yeah, and that's why I just pointed that out because I just have different preferences in my terminal. But as long as you see like the word master somewhere, that's perfect. In some of your little punctuation prompts, they may be a little different, but it's the same principle. Every time we get init, every time we add, commit, push our stuff, the prompt should change just slightly. And we'll talk about that as we go through the lesson this morning, because that's some stuff that we added in that git prompt file from yesterday. And it's just it's just there to help you out so you can visually at a glance, you can see the state of your project or the directory that you're working in. For example, here, if you take note in my terminal again, so I touched this a.txt, and then my prompt changed right after that. I have a question mark. So that question mark in my terminal means that I have a file, but it's not being tracked yet. So I have a file that's not being tracked at the moment. And you guys should have something similar. So what do you guys have there? Do you have I
have a percentage, like that hashtag percentage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's in the markdown that I put in there too. Yeah, perfect. So for you guys, that hashtag percentage, again, just means that you've created something new, but we haven't added that file to Git yet. So Git recognizes that there's something new in our repo, but it's not tracking it yet. So this is going to change yet again when we do a git add here momentarily. But again, just take note, just try to notice what's going on in your terminal. And maybe that'll be helpful going forward visually so you can see this stuff at a glance. So let's do a git status real quick. We'll see what's going on with that. So we just added a file. And then you guys should get a message, pretty much what I'm getting here. So the message that we're getting is we're on the master branch. We're on branch master. We still haven't done an initial commit. We still haven't even done our first commit. And now Git is showing us our untracked files. So right now we have a file that we created, a.txt, but it's not being tracked. And then Git's really helpful with these messages. It says use git add, then the name of the file, to include what will be committed at some point. So Git's really good about these messages. Just in general, we want to encourage you guys, error messages, server logs, things like that. Sometimes it's easy just to kind of ignore them or just kind of rush through them. But a lot of times they're there to help us. So Git's telling us exactly what we need to do. So let's go ahead and do a git add, and we'll add this file. So I'm going to do a git add txt. I'll put that here into Slack. And so once I added that file, it's now being tracked. And on my terminal, now beside this master branch, I have a plus sign. So again, the way my terminal is set up with my goofy preferences, once I'm tracking files and all the files in my repo are currently being tracked with Git, I get this plus sign, and that just means that I've done a git add. Yeah, thanks, Zach. So it looks like you guys have a plus sign as well. So that's good. Cool. So again, if you're like, kind of in the middle of something and it's like, did I just do an add to the files and such? These visual shortcuts, they're just there to help you perhaps. So you can just at a glance, you can tell. You can also do a git status, obviously, but maybe these will be helpful going forward. Cool. So you should have a small a small cross. You should have a small cross should show up next to your prompt, which is good. So this Git snapshot is now stored in a temporary staging area, which Git calls the index. So hopefully the word index is familiar from yesterday's coverage. Remember we had kind of an image that had the different stages of Git add, Git commit, the different trees and such. So now that Git is tracking this file, it's going to create an index for that file, and it's going to track all the changes. All right, so what do we do after we add something if we're ready to take kind of a permanent snapshot of that situation? The next thing that we're going to do is do a git commit. So let's go ahead and do that now. And I put a suggested git commit message into Slack in that screenshot. So if you guys want to do something similar, I'm trying to be very redundant with these git commit messages as we go through the lesson today. Let's go ahead and git commit -m. And I'm going to call this first commit. Please remember the file at this time, whatever you guys want to put there. It's funny because as you guys go through the course, particularly like during project weeks and stuff, and it's like, 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes, and you guys are just like completely frazzled and not sleeping. It's funny to go back and look at some of the git commit messages at that point, like on your GitHub repos, and it's there may be like some salty language in there, and the git commit messages at that point have like nothing to do with the code. It's just like, I'm sleepy, or I'm hungry, or I've been up too long. There's obviously some profanity occasionally, but. So if you're observing my terminal window, hopefully you guys see something similar. So once we do that git commit, Git kind of gives us a recap of what it just did for us. So we see that we're still on master. If you guys take note of this crazy like 7-digit kind of hash, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive on that here momentarily. But if we ever want to reference this commit, or let's say that we go like 10 commits down the road, and maybe we want to come back and visit this specific commit to grab some code, or maybe we like totally screwed up and want to roll back to this version, this crazy 7-digit hash, this hash is actually probably like 16 or 17 digits long, but Git will remember this snapshot. This is kind of the address or the thumbprint for your code at this moment in time on this commit. So if we ever want to roll back and reference this snapshot, we're going to use that address or that key to roll back to this point in time. And we're going to do that a little bit later today. And you can see that it echoes out the commit message that we wrote. We can see that with this particular commit, we only changed one file. We only have one file to change anyway. And then notice that my prompt, the arrow signs, the question marks, the pound signs, percent signs that you guys have, notice that they're cleaned out. So now I know that my Git repo is at kind of a fresh state, right? I haven't made any changes. I just did a commit, and now I'm kind of at a new point to move forward for a new commit at some point. So again, I can't see everyone. If you wouldn't mind, let's do it on Christine's message there in Slack. Just give me a quick thumbs up in Slack if you guys are in a good spot. If you're where I am right here, we just did a commit. Our terminal prompt is now kind of at a clean slate. So JJ's message was different. That's okay. If it's a little different, that's no worries. The main key, I just want to make sure that you guys did a git commit successfully. And the decoration, the little git prompt stuff that we added, it should be at a clean state right now. You can also do a git status if you want.
So I just wanted to clarify again. I know y'all talked about it earlier. So it looks like everything went through. It was all very successful, the commit, the add, the message. But what did you say about the master? If you don't have master next to your name, next to the
I think do you have master like in parentheses or anything? The word master.
I don't have master anywhere. When I did what did I do? When I said branch master. When I did git status a little while ago, it says branch master, but that's it. I haven't seen master anywhere else.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. Like I said, my prompt, I've just got some like old preferences in here. So my prompt may look slightly different. We can take a look at that later. The git prompt, if you recall yesterday, we created that hidden file with like those 5 lines of code.
Yeah.
And you guys are welcome. Like you can customize that however you want, at some point. But it's just there to give you kind of these visual clues. It's not like, not a huge deal breaker or anything. But yeah, just go with me at break or something. We'll take another look.
Thanks.
So, and then for you other folks, if you see master in parentheses or something, that's fine. You're always going to be, once you get init, at a very minimum, you're always going to have one branch, at least a master branch. We're going to get into branching here in a few minutes, but at a very minimum, you're always going to be on master. So that's the one branch that always must exist once you do a git init. And you can also do a git status. And if you're looking in my terminal, if you do a git status, it also gives you some information. It said that you're on branch master, which again, I can visually see that. And then it also says nothing to commit, working directory clean. So I committed my staging area, Git took a snapshot, and then it kind of wiped out that working directory. So now I'm in a good, clean spot to move forward. And it looks like we have about 17 thumbs up, so that's good. Did anyone else have another question? Did I hear?
Yes, Mark, I got a quick question.
Sure.
So when we do git commit and then our message, the message should be written in quotation mark?
Yeah, so when you do the git commit -m, I'll put this into Slack. Yeah, so the message has to be, because it's accepting a string. So remember, strings are in quotes. So yeah, that's just the syntax. Because there's a couple of ways that we can add a commit message. We're doing it kind of the more concise way by doing it from the command line.
Yep.
But you can also configure your terminal. Maybe you want to do a more robust, and this will probably happen depending on what shop you're working at. Maybe you want to do a more robust commit message, put more information, write like a paragraph or something, I don't know, a few lines at least. So maybe you want to do your git commit message in Atom or in some other text editor because you're going to be doing a lot more work. When you save that git commit message, you're still just typing a really long string. And so regardless of what device you use to create the message, it does need to be in quotes. And I'll just put that here in Slack.
Thank you.
That's a good question, yeah. All these are good questions.
Thanks.
Yeah, no sweat. And then Sean mentioned this earlier, a shortcut to both add and write the message in one fell swoop. You can do that -am flag. You will not see me do that in class. I just like to keep it separate because I like to be really redundant. And I like to do git status updates like sometimes between my messages and such. So, you won't see me do that just for the sake of we can all kind of see each step. But that's certainly a shortcut that's available to you. All right, so we're in good shape. We just did a git commit. Let's, again, we're kind of moving toward making branches, rolling back to earlier commits and versions of our code. So the next thing we want to do, let's make a change to this file. Actually, there's nothing in the file, so first we need to actually add some stuff to it. So the first thing we're going to do is let's open this in Atom. Or again, if you're using some line text, that's totally cool. But I'm going to put kind of the symlink. It's kind of a shortcut, right? So if you install this with Homebrew, you should have this functionality out of the box. So I can put in the name of the software that I want to open this file up in, and then the name of that file after it. and it'll open it up for me. So I'm going to do atom a.text. So if you guys want to run that. And probably opened up in a different window for me, so let me drag it over. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Cool. So let me adjust my screen just a moment. So I'm going to move my Slack to my other window, make some real estate here. So now I have my the README up. I have my terminal, and then I have Atom right down here. Yeah, Eric makes a really good point, actually. If you don't want to do the touch, the name of the file, and then open that file up, you can absolutely do Atom and then the name of the file, and it'll open up your text editor. I'll show you real quick. So if I wanted to create a file, sample file, I could just, skip the middleman here, if you will. So I can do Atom, then the name of the file, and it'll open up right here. And that's the same thing with Sublime. I think Sublime, if you do that shortcut, you actually need to save the file for it to persist. It may already be saved when you open it, but yeah, so that's a really good point. That's a nice little shortcut to have.
The README you have open currently, where'd you get that from?
I just grabbed that from Slack. So if you look at what Eric just put in there, just a really good shortcut. I'll put that into Slack as well. Here's a quick shortcut. So these are good. If you guys have a lot of times in class, again, I try to do things longhand. I think that helps reinforce understanding. But as you guys get more comfortable, if you have any shortcuts you want to throw out there, please enlighten us. To create and open a file in your text editor. And then, for example, I'll use sample.txt. So yeah, I'll just kind of embellish there in Slack what Eric put in there. Yeah, and if you're using Sublime, you can do subl and then the name of the file name, absolutely.
Oh, I was talking about the README that you have open in your Chrome browser or whatever it is you're using.
Yeah.
I can't find, where'd you get that from? That's what I was looking for.
Sorry, one more time.
All that text right there. The page that you have open right there.
Oh yeah, so this is the README that I put into Slack earlier.
Yeah, would you mind repasting that again? I can't see that one.
Yeah, no sweat. Yeah, there you go. And then, I try to paste in screenshots into Slack kind of for each section because I know that some students like to just focus on Slack. So I try to be really redundant in that way and help you guys out. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this file just for the sake of the lesson so we don't get confused. I'm just going to delete that. But that is an excellent shortcut. Cool. So if you guys create a new file called a.text, and then let's go into that file, and I'm going to add some text. So in the README, I say I'm literally going to put adding some text. You guys can if you want to be a little bit more creative, feel free. I'm going to make my atom a little bit larger, so hopefully you guys can see that better. All right, cool. So just throw some text in there. And then we're going to do a git commit. Before we do that, again, we want to have good git practices. So I'll put this into Slack. So once you add some code or some text, just run a git status. So sometimes this is a really good practice. It's something that I try to do. So I just want to confirm the situation of my version control at this moment. So I'm going to do a git status. So the message that I get, I'm on branch master. Obviously, it's the only branch I have right now. You guys should only have one branch as well. Changes not staged for commit. So notice that I'm not getting any message. Earlier, we got a message saying that that file was untracked. If you guys remember that. I'll scroll up a little bit. So up here, when we did a git status after I created that a.text initially, Git gave me a message that I had untracked files. Down here, now that I do a git status, I'm not seeing that message anymore. I'm saying changes not staged for commit. So why am I not seeing that untracked file message? Can someone come on mic and explain how this file is being tracked now? What did we do?
It has content.
Okay, it definitely has content, but even before that, how did we make Git aware that we wanted Git to manage the version control for this particular file? What did we do earlier?
It's been committed to the repo now.
Even before that, what did we do before that?
The repo has been initialized.
To start the tracking, you have to do a git add.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, so you guys were all around that central key point. So yeah, once we did that git add, Git will always be watching that file. So git add is the specific command that makes this file trackable with Git. Cool. Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. Yeah, so we did git status. We made some changes to this file, and we can see that those changes have not been staged. They're in our working directory, but they haven't been staged yet. So what's the first step we want to do if we're going to go down the road of committing our changes? What's the first thing we need to do? If someone wants to come off mic. Huh?
Should we restage it?
Yeah, we're going to restage
it again.
Yeah, we need to add it again. Yeah, and that'll restage it. So let's do a git add, and we'll do our a.text. I'll put this into Slack. Cool. Yeah, to restage our file, we'll do git add. And now if I do a git status, let's see what message we get. Cool. So you guys should see this as well. So notice that, make a little bit more room here. So this is something that Git does for us, actually. Do you guys see a difference between a file that's not staged for commit versus a file that's been added and staged? What's the difference that you guys see between these two messages?
Color.
Something very visual. Yeah, so
Red
so Git's really helpful with that. So yeah, so red means that it's tracking the file, but it hasn't been staged. And then once we did that git add, you know, kind of taking a preliminary snapshot of that code, now we know that the modified is in green. Yeah, perfect. And so now even Git tells us the next step. Changes to be committed. It's going to be this whatever's in green, really. So let's go ahead and add a git commit here. Commit. And I'll put these instructions into Slack. So I'm going to make my git commit message, and I would suggest you guys do this also. I just want to be really redundant and check the name of the message. But put something like second commit, just trying to be really obvious, because we're going to be doing other stuff down the road, and just want to make sure that we say that. So we'll do a git commit. Again, like we saw earlier, once I committed and took a snapshot of my code, my particular prompt, it cleared out again, so that plus sign went away. And so now I know that I have kind of a fresh state. And if I do a git status one more time, we'll get that same message that we should always see once we do a commit. On branch master, nothing to commit. The working directory is clean. So once we do a commit, it wipes out that working directory, and we kind of have a clean slate to start with. So any questions about those few steps? I'll give you guys just a minute to catch up with that. So this is pretty much like the basic workflow when you want to do git adds and git commits and such. It's pretty much these few steps. When you initially create a repo, you're going to git init, to instantiate the version control software. Then as you make changes, you want to git add to start tracking those files initially. And then you do a git commit to actually take a snapshot and then clear out that working directory with a clean slate. And then that's just kind of a rinse and repeat process. As I mentioned yesterday in the lesson, I mean, Git has a lot of cool features. You're only going to be using, maybe like 9 or 10 throughout this course. And there's a lot of cool features of Git that we're just not, going to have the bandwidth to get into. But if you want to dive a little deeper, Git's a really great piece of software. Very helpful. So once we do that second commit, it's there in the README and the snapshot. Let's take a look at the Git logs. So the Git logs show us the history of our Git commits. So we can run git log. I'll put this into Slack. Put another thingy on there. And it looks a little bit better. Yeah, so go ahead and run git log. And you guys should see 2 commits. And you're, I don't recall yesterday in our git prompt if we set up this color coordination. Are you guys seeing these colors, like something in gold or some other color and then some information? Okay, that's cool. Maybe that's just a terminal default. But we have the git commit log, so we have 2 so far. And remember earlier how I mentioned that each commit is kind of like stamped with the crazy hash? Actually, this looks like even more than, wow, I don't even know how many digits that is. Maybe like 30, 40 digits. I'm going to scroll up in my terminal. So remember, for example, if you look at our first commit that we did, so it showed us like 7 digits right here. So this is just like the tail end of that crazy, crazy series of digits and numbers. So that was our first commit. And then if we come down here, actually it's the front end. So those 7 digits correspond with the first 7 digits of that crazy hash. So we'll see in a few steps, if we actually want to roll back to a previous commit, we don't necessarily have to put in this entire hash. As long as we put in like the first 7 digits, that's enough information for Git to find and roll back to that particular snapshot. And we'll see an example of that here in a minute. But git log will show you your Git commit history. It's a really handy message. There's an even more concise way to look at this. So if you just have like tens and tens or hundreds of Git commit messages, you can also do a git log with a flag called oneline. And that'll just show you like the essential information for each commit. So it'll show you the first 7 digits of that crazy hash for each commit, and then it'll show you the commit message. So if you want a little bit more of a concise way to see that stuff, I'll put that into Slack as well. Cool. So Dana, after running git log, I'm stuck with a colon. It sounds like maybe you somehow got into Vim. So I would maybe just hit the letter Q and see if that kind of knocks you out of there. Cool. Yeah, so Dana just mentioned something that'll probably happen. I'm sure it'll happen to you guys at one point or another. But remember, I think in either orientation or maybe day 1 or so, we talked about the Vim or the virtual editor within your terminal. Remember that you can't use the mouse in that environment. It goes way back to like the Unix days when folks only had like a keyboard to input and manipulate data. So it's a really, really fast way. If you get really good at Vim, I'm sure maybe we can get Matty B to give us a tutorial on it because he's really good at that stuff. It's a really fast and a really fast way to program because you're not using this thing at all. It's all with like keystrokes and such. So if you get comfortable with that environment, it's really, really good, and it makes you a more efficient programmer. But most of the time we're going to be using a text editor. But what just happened is it sounds like she got put into the Vim environment somehow. And if that ever occurs and you see like a colon at the bottom of the screen, that's probably a good indication that you're in that virtual text editor within Terminal. And a quick and dirty way to get out of that is just to do Q, just to hit the letter Q for quit. Yeah, so Dana says, I get stuck in the Vim all the time. Derek could not help last night. Yeah, so Dana, yeah, get with one of us later. Maybe we can set up a configuration to where, because it may be asking you to write your commit message in Vim or something. Just hit us up later and we can take a look at that. Jesse says, git log dash one line unrecognized argument. That is because one line, yeah, thanks Farouk. Yeah, it requires 2 dashes. Cool, okay. Let's see how many thumbs ups we have. So I'm gonna put this into Slack. If you wouldn't mind, just give me a thumbs up if you're if you're up to where I am. Yeah, so give me a thumbs up if you're caught up to where I am here in the lesson. Just want to make sure we're in a good spot. Cool, works for me. 17 folks. All right, so I just want to mention 2 other features of Git. Don't want to really belabor the point here because these are a little bit more advanced. We have bigger fish to fry as far as this lesson. But I just wanted to show or demonstrate 2 really good features of Git among many features, great features. But 2 things that we can do is we can roll back changes. So let's say that we've added or even committed something and maybe we're like, oh crap, I want to undo that or I want to unstage a file. I wanted to show you guys how to do that. And then also want to show you guys, we're not going to go too deep into it today, but if you want to check out a previous version, a previous snapshot of your committed code using those crazy hashes that we just looked at, I want to show you guys the process for doing that. So let's take a look at rolling back changes first. And I just put a screenshot into Slack. So let's take a look at that rolling back changes section. The first thing I want you guys to do is add some text to your a.text file. And this can be anything. I don't even think I put suggested text in the lesson plan. I'm adding some extra text to demonstrate rolling back changes. I'm also going to word wrap my Atom editor so that'll all be on one line. Then I'll I'll Slack out this text just in case you guys want to use that. So I'm adding some extra text to demo rolling back changes. So go ahead and add some goofy text to your file. And then let's do a git add. So let's say that I git add the file, but I haven't committed it yet. So if I do a git status, again, I'm getting that modified message in red because it's tracking this file, but the changes have not been staged yet. So let's do a git add a.text. I'll put this into Slack. And then I'm going to do a git status. Again, I like to be really redundant sometimes. Cool. So in this situation, we've made some changes to the file. We've put it into the staging area. But let's say that I'm not ready to commit it and I want to maybe make a change or add something, or maybe I don't even like that line of code that I put in there. How can we unstage our file? How can we, unadd it, if you will? How can we undo that? Well, the way that we can do that is using something called git reset. There's a ton of these really great shortcuts. We're just going to take a look at a few. I'll put this into Slack. So let's do a git reset file name. So this will unstage your file. So we can do git reset a.text. We get a really helpful message from Git, unstaged changes after reset. And now if we do a git status just to confirm, we should get that red message again. So no harm, no foul. It's as if we never even added it in the first place. So sometimes that's a handy little tool if you want to, make some more adjustments to a file or to your code. Another thing that we can do, let's say that we wanted to just completely discard some changes and roll back to the previous snapshot, the previous committed version of that file. So another quick and dirty way we could do that is with a git checkout. I'll put this into Slack again. To roll back to the previous committed version. So let's take a look at this. We added this, I'm adding some extra text to demo rolling back changes. Let's say I just want to wipe the slate clean. I want to go back to the previous commit for this file. I just want to get rid of anything that I've added. So the way that I can do that is with this git checkout command. So we'll do git checkout and then the name of the file. So git checkout a.text. And then if you take a look at that file in your text editor, whatever you just added should disappear. So we essentially just went back to that previous commit.
Will that save it in the editor too, or do we have to go into Atom and save it as it is now?
Well, so I had added that text and I had saved the file. Mm-hmm. And then once I ran that git checkout, anything that is not a part of that previous commit, it just removed it.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Let's say we modified several different files,
mm-hmm.
and we just want to roll back one of those files.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you would use this git checkout the name of the file?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, so
because like, let's say if you wanted to roll back all of your changes to all of your files, then you would use, like it says in the course, in the, whatchamacallit, today's course thing. It says you use the hash of the previous commit. I would assume that means to go back to the version of every file that's being tracked at that moment of the commit. But if you just want to roll back one file's modifications, you would use the git checkout and that file name.
Yeah,
right?
You could also, this would probably work as well. We only have one file. You could probably check it out. There's actually, as Matt mentions in Slack, there's a couple of ways to do this stuff. You could probably do like a git checkout dot. That would probably work as well. So remember, dot refers to every file in the current directory. That would probably just check out everything up to that previous commit. And I would imagine that would be the same as doing git checkout hash of the previous commit, like you see in the lesson. So I think that would, be like tomato, tomato. So I think that would be the same thing there. And then Atom, Atom has a really good, there's very subtle differences with particular commands in Git. So there's git reset hard, head, there's git reset soft. And they all have very subtle differences. Didn't really have time to go in that during this lesson. That reminds me, if you scroll down to the bottom of this README, I put in, similar to that HTML cheat sheet from yesterday, I put in a Git cheat sheet with a lot of commands. Actually, I'll go ahead and paste that into Slack. That may be a fun thing to go ahead and pin to the channel. Let me do that real quick. I'll make one more snapshot of that. And again, there's several of these online. This is just a really kind of easy to read and manage. But I'll pop this into Slack. So yeah, I think to maybe Richard's point, just to demonstrate that one more time, I'm going to go back into Atom. I'm going to add some more goofy text, and I'll save it. And then let's say that, like, you know, my dog Diesel got on the keyboard and like was trying to, like, I don't know, type out some correspondence or something. Again, I can just do that git checkout, and it'll, you know, just reset this file to the previous commit. So let's take a look at this next section. So that was, you know, considered rolling back changes. Again, some of these are like tomato, tomato, and you'll probably, as you get more experience with using Git, you will probably establish kind of your own strategies for your own workflow. We're just like hitting some of the greatest hits right now. But let's take a look at checking out a previous commit. I'll make another screenshot and put this into Slack for you guys. So let's say that right now we only have 2 commits. Maybe we'll take another look at this later in the lesson when we have multiple commits. But let's say, for example, that I want to roll back to the first commit of this repo. Let's say that we're on like commit number 10, and we want to roll back to commit number 1 or something. The way that we can do that, let's follow along in the lesson as we have it. So the first thing we're going to do is like a git log, because I want to just check out the state of my commit history. And I'll do the 1 line, because that's a really nice, neat way to look at it. So with our example, we only have 2 commits. It's not like super sexy right now, but for funsies, let's say that we want to roll back to this first commit. So another strategy to do that is we can do a git checkout, and then this 7-digit kind of abbreviation for the hash, the first 7 digits of that crazy like 40-character long hash. So we can do git checkout, and this is the thumbprint or the, you know, timestamp for that particular commit. I'll put this into Slack as well. Your commit hash is going to be different, so it's not going to be, you know, precisely what I have. But I'll put this into Slack. And I'll make this your 7-digit hash of previous commit. Cool. So run that command git checkout, and then whatever your 7-digit hash is. And then let's take a look at what Git is telling us. So it tells us that it's checking out that particular commit by that, you know, the first 7 digits of that hash. You are in a detached head state. You can look around, make experimental changes, and commit them, and you can discard any commits you make in this state without impacting any branches by performing another checkout. So that's a little bit of jargon. We're going to see that maybe with a little more clarity later in the lesson when we create some branches and do some merging. But essentially, we're in a detached head state. And what that means is if you look at my prompt, I'm no longer on master branch, right? I'm kind of in like this inception type scenario. So I'm actually at this commit, at this state of my code, the history of my code, this 605E16C. Now if I do a git, oh, and also notice in Atom, notice that in my first commit, the first commit we did, we hadn't even added any text to our file, right? So it completely went back to square one. And now if we do a git log from here, from this detached head state, so notice that that second commit has disappeared. Why don't we see that second commit in our Git history now? Does someone want to come off mic and take a stab at that?
It hasn't been made yet relative to where we are.
Yeah, we kind of like went back to the future or something. So at this point in time with this commit, we haven't even made that second commit. Good stuff. So I just want you guys to, take note. It's here in the lesson. I'll put this into Slack. So take note that when you check out a previous commit, that the log command is only going to show up to that current commit, that current point in your timeline. Now, if you want to see all of the commit history, there's a way to do that as well, and it's with this next command. I'll put this into Slack. So this is a way to see all the history, both past and future. So if you guys want to run that from your command line, actually, I don't even think this decorate is really needed. Depending on how you have your prompt set up, it may make your, actually, I do know what that does. Let me take out decorate. I think it gives us the specific master and head in parentheses. Yeah. So decorate is definitely very helpful, particularly if we had a ton of commits. We really want to see, well, I'll ask you guys. So here when I run this command, and you guys should actually have the same thing, what is the difference between master and head? Does someone want to come off mic? Take a stab at that one. So it looks like we only have two commits, but we have a master and we have a head. What are the differences between those two?
The head is where we're at right now, and the master is where the entire repo's at.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so the head is kind of where we are currently, our current state, which right now is at the first commit. The master is where this repo is, even though we can't see those other commits because we're kind of back in time. The master is where the most current state of our repo lives. So the head is where we are currently. The master is, where the current, most current state of the app lives. Now, most of the time, head and master are going to be the same because, for the most part, we're going to be working both on the master branch and, generally we're going to be at the head. We're going to be like in the most current version of our code. That may change a little bit, as we'll see later, if we're creating branches, doing some more complex things.
I got a fatal argument when I put in that command.
Oh boy, what does it say?
Fatal argument, ambiguous argument, -- one line, unknown revision or path not in the working tree.
Huh. Maybe time to get a new computer. That's usually what I do. I'm really not sure. Let's.
I had an argument too. Yeah, but on when you posted git log -- all -- decorate -- one line, I tried it with one line, and that's when I got the argument, and then I did -- one line. I
did it both ways, and I got the same response.
I got master and head in parentheses this time. So.
Let me. I'll stop sharing my screen momentarily. And we're almost at break time anyway, so this is a good time to put a pin in it for a minute. Richard, do you want to share your? Well, let's do this, guys. So we're pretty much at that coverage. The next thing I want to do is we're actually going to create a GitHub repo in your personal repos, and we're going to practice pushing this local repo up to GitHub. I think that'll be a really good practice. So this is a really good point to take a quick break. So let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 12:35. And Richard, if you want to share your screen, we'll take a look real quick. And yeah, we'll meet back at 12:35 Eastern time.
Something weird actually ended up happening too. Now when I do a git status, it tells me the head's detached.
Yeah, so when we check out a previous commit, we're detaching from the head. So that's a pretty standard message.
This is what originally happened when I copied and pasted it from you? and it was missing the double dash, and I noticed that after a couple times, and I redid it with the double dash, but I still got the fatal argument.
Huh. Can you move your terminal window up just a little bit on your screen? There you go. Let's see, do a git checkout master. Huh. Yeah, so now you do a git status. Okay. So you're back on to master. Run that git log all decorate one line one more time. That's really weird.
Yeah.
Can you just run git log? Yeah, that works. Did you try git log -- one line? Did you copy that from Slack or something? I wonder if something got lost in translation. Yeah, maybe there's like an empty space or something in there. Weird.
Who knows?
Yeah, but maybe if you type it out longhand, maybe it'll work for you.
Let's try. That's what it should look like, right?
Yeah, and then like we just mentioned, notice that since you're on your master, you're both at the head and you're on the master, the most current version of your code. Yeah, so that looks right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
See you in a bit.
All right.
Cool. So kind of our next steps that we want to get through before lunchtime is now we want to push the repo that we created locally. Let's review the steps to push that up to GitHub, your own GitHub. Before we do that, maybe to help visualize some of this Git commit history and such, because we've only had like 2 commits in our little test repo. But I wanted to invite you guys to visit our class repo. I'm going to paste this into Slack, and then I'll share my screen. And we'll just take a look at, for example, the commit history for you guys' class repo. So if you want to click on that link I just put into Slack, I'm going to share my screen again, and you guys can follow along. And you guys will be able to do this on the repos that you own and that you push up and such. But if you click on our class repo link, there's a section here on GitHub, or a little link rather, that shows your commits. So it actually shows you the number of commits, and it's a link. And if you click on this link, it'll show you kind of the details of the Git history of all the, essentially this is like the Git logs, the GitHub version of the Git logs for this particular repo. So it lays it out, by day. So these are all the commits that we did, I guess today actually. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. It shows you, on GitHub, it shows you how far back that you actually did it. So like, here's a commit from 19 minutes ago, for example. Here's the commit message. Here's the contributor that made the commits. So this should be Tom. So hopefully this is a little helpful, maybe a more visual example of what the Git logs and the Git history looks like, the Git commit history. And then notice over here, we also have that 7-digit little hash, just the beginning of that crazy timestamp, that crazy, yeah, I guess timestamp's a good word, that crazy locator for that particular time in history, that particular snapshot for the repo, for the code in our repo. And you can click on these commits to see a little bit more detail. So if I click on this one, there's some strategies. We're not going to have time to touch on it today, but if you want to Google something called Git diff, I'll put that into Slack. Git diff is a way to see like two versions of the same file side by side, and you can see what's been changed or updated or deleted, that kind of thing. GitHub is really good and visual in that sense. So if you actually click on the commit, it says right here, showing one changed file with 7 additions and 5 deletions. So if you scroll through here, you guys can check it out. So the stuff in green is new code that's been added. The stuff in red, as you can probably deduce, it's stuff that's been removed or updated for that matter. So you guys can scroll through here and kind of get a sense of the particulars. You know, I know that this commit was made, some stuff was changed, but this gives you a little bit more detail. And you can run this git diff command locally on your machine. You can do git diff and then the name of the file, and it'll show you something similar. It's not quite as nice and laid out as GitHub, but you can see this in your terminal. And there's several pieces of open source software that are really helpful for seeing this in a better visual way locally. Some really good Git pieces of software that you can download. I just wanted to point that out. Maybe that helps. I know that we only made 2 commits in our kind of test repo, and if you go to like a huge open source project like Rails or something, we'll go there right now. I have to go to all repos. So I'm just going to do a GitHub search for Rails. So here's the Rails code base. Again, Rails is open source. If you want to contribute to it, or if there's a bug and you want to fix it, by all means, you're allowed to do so. So the Rails code base, for example, has 3,100 contributors. A lot of people have contributed to this open source software. Almost 60,000 commits. So if you want to check out the commit history for Rails, it's going to be a lot of digging. Also, this has several branches, and that's going to lead us into like our discussion we'll get to here shortly. So branches are a great way to you can make a copy of the current state of your code, and it's a branch, so it's separated from the master branch. And you can work on a new feature. You can experiment with stuff. And a lot of times open source projects will do this, where if they're going to add a new feature, right now we're on Rails version 5. So at some point back in Rails version 4, they probably created a branch of the main code base so they could make updates, try to test out some new features in Rails. Meanwhile, you could still download and have access to that main pristine master branch of the code while they're all tinkering on this other version. And then at some point in the future, when they work out all the bugs and all the new features, they'll merge this other branch back into the master. And at that point, the master branch will bring in those features, and that's like the current head, the current master state of the code base. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. Branching is a really, really helpful feature of Git. And there's a couple of reasons for that. We'll talk about that briefly. Just wanted to point that out. It may be a little more visual, a little bit more helpful to visualize those Git commits. So the next thing we're going to do, let's actually create a repository in you guys' GitHub accounts. And we're going to push up this test app repo, or the test repo. These are some pretty big screenshots. I'm going to put these into Slack. So to start, the first thing I want you guys to do, go ahead and go to your GitHub account. And I'm going to do this on my repo as well, so we can follow along. So I want you guys to go to your GitHub account, make sure that you're logged in. And then we're going to look in the top left-hand side and hit a new repository button. I will do the same. I'm going to go to my profile. And there's a couple of ways to do this. The screenshot in Slack, if you're on your main profile page, I want you guys to go up here. I think I put left-hand side. I apologize. That should be top right. Go up here to the top right to where you see this plus sign. And if you click on that, you have a couple of options to create a new instance of something. So go ahead and click on New Repository here. And then give me a thumbs up in Slack if you follow those 2 steps and you get to a screen like this. It says Create New Repository. It's going to allow you to customize it a little bit. Hopefully this screen looks familiar to you guys. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I'll put some more screenshots into Slack. Cool, 14 thumbs ups, that's good. Cool, so the next step, let's give this repository a name. I'm gonna call mine test repo. The name of this repo doesn't have to match the name of your local repo, but I mean, a lot of times I do make it match just so it's easier for me, but it doesn't have to match. You could call this anything you wanted. I'm going to make this public. So remember with GitHub, there's certain tiers of service. So I think you can get like, 10 private repos for maybe like $8 a month or something. But I'm not really worried about anybody stealing my brilliant test repo code base. So I think we'll be good with that. The other thing I want you guys to do right here is go ahead and click this, initialize this repository with the README. So all GitHub repositories require a README, whether you want to make one locally and push it up with your initial code, or you can go ahead and instantiate one in GitHub itself and then pull it down. Either way is fine. We're actually going to try the latter. We're going to create it here and then pull it down, specifically because it's going to give us a merge conflict. And I want you guys to take a look at and see what that looks like. So go ahead and click on this repo with the README, and then we'll click this green button that says Create Repository. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up in Slack on that last screenshot if you're able to go through those steps, and then you should see your new test repo within your account here. There shouldn't be much in here, but go ahead and give me a thumbs up once you get to that point. Cool. You guys are crushing it today. So the last couple steps we need to do right here on step 6. Now that we've created this empty repo in GitHub, we have our local repo. Have we in any way connected the two? Does our local repo know about our cloud GitHub repo, and does our GitHub repo know about our local one? Yeah, thank you. So they do not. So the next thing we're going to do is actually connect the local to the GitHub repo in the cloud. This is pretty similar to what we did yesterday when we added upstream remote to the cloned version of the repo that you guys did. This is a very similar process. We're just letting them know about each other. So we now need to connect our local Git repo with our remote repository on GitHub. We have to add a remote repository, an address where we can send our local files to be stored. The remote URL is under the green button on the right named Clone or Download. So we've done this a couple of times. So in your version of your test repo, go over here to the green Clone or Download. And again, let's try to be consistent. Let's make sure that we're grabbing the SSH URL for this. So make sure that this says clone with SSH. Then I'm going to click the clipboard right here to copy it. And then the last thing we want to do now that we have that URL, go ahead and paste that in there. I'm going to paste this particular command into Slack to be very explicit. So the last thing we want to do is tell our local repo that we want to push to this remote URL in GitHub. So the command is going to be git remote add origin, and then make sure that you add your version or your URL to the command. So it's going to go git remote add origin, And does somebody want to come on mic and refresh us? What does origin refer to? Actually, I'm going to pick on someone. I haven't heard much from Farouk today. So Farouk, you want to come on mic and...
Yeah, sorry, what was the question again?
Sure. So the question was, we're running the command git remote add origin. So I was just asking, what does origin refer to? What is origin?
Does this, I'm not sure, but does it refer to the actual repo that we just created?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, origin refers to the GitHub repo that we created. So remember when we run git remote -v, we're going to do that next. We always have at least those two origin URLs. So origin refers to the repo in GitHub that we're pushing and pulling code from. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, man. So let's go ahead and run that line of code. Again, make sure that you're putting in your URL here as the last argument. And we shouldn't see any response, so no news is good news. And after you do that, let's just confirm that we got that wired up successfully. So you guys are...
Syntax error when I do that.
Syntax error? Syntax error?
Yeah, bash syntax error.
Did you copy the command from Slack? And are you...
I copied it from Slack and I typed it out. And it gave me the same message both times.
Sure. Do you want to, I'm going to stop sharing. Do you want to share your screen? We'll take a quick peek. Okay. So sorry if I was unclear. So make sure that you delete. So I'm getting some feedback. Make sure that you delete the less than and greater.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll put that into Slack as well.
That's what it should be, right?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool.
Mine came up with a whole bunch of stuff. His did nothing. Like mine has a whole page of stuff that came down.
Okay, let's take a look.
All right.
And so other folks, if you ran that git remote add origin and you didn't have any errors or anything, go ahead and run a git remote -v and just confirm that you have those two origin URLs. So you go ahead and do that. If you have those two origin URLs, if you wouldn't mind, give me a thumbs up in Slack for that command. Let's see. Okay, so you ran git remote add origin. What happens if you run git remote -v down at the bottom? Cool. Yeah, you're all good.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So why does some people's do nothing and why did mine return a bunch of information?
Sorry, I guess I don't see where it returned information. I see that you ran git remote add and it didn't return anything, and then you ran git remote -v and it returned the two URLs. So that's exactly how it should be.
Was I supposed to have done git clone before the add origin?
Mm-mm. No, we were not git cloning, and
Okay.
we don't need to git clone because we already have that local file, that local directory.
Right, so this is not quite the same process as before, is when we were using somebody else's so I should have skipped that step, correct?
Yeah, that wasn't necessary.
Okay.
What we're walking through now is, let's say that you're working on a project locally and you've gotten to a point where you want to push it up to GitHub, maybe to save that code, maybe to share that code with someone else. So that's the process we're walking through right now. We just went to GitHub and we created an empty repository. And now we're going to tell our local repository to push its data up to that GitHub repo so we can save it. So yeah, so for what we're doing right now, we don't need to clone anything.
Okay, sure.
We're actually doing the opposite. We're pushing our local stuff up to GitHub. But if you did want to clone, those were the correct steps. So that's great. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So I see that some of you folks, maybe you're still in the head from earlier. So I wanted to do that before we actually go to the next step of actually pushing this to GitHub. So I'm going to share my screen. And if you can see my terminal, right now I'm still in like a detached head state, right? I'm still at this like 605E16C. So I want to get back to the current state of my app. Can someone in Slack give me the command to get back to the current version of my app? Okay, git checkout dot. That may work. Git checkout master, yeah, that's a little more specific. That's what we were looking for. So go ahead and do a git checkout master. And the message that we get, I'll put that into Slack as well. Yeah, so the message that we see in the terminal, the previous head position was this other commit back in time. And now we've switched to branch master. Now we've fast forwarded for all intents and purposes. And if we do a git status from here, actually, sorry, do a git log -decorate. I'll put this into Slack. And when you know it, I forget that extra dash that time. There you go. Yeah, try that one. So if we run that, so you guys should be seeing something similar. So now that we checked out the master, we're on the master branch, and we're also at the head. This is where we are currently. So right now, both the head and the master, we're at the second commit. So we're at the most recent version of our code. So that's where we want to be. And then you guys should have in parentheses, maybe master in parentheses there. So let's see, we have right up there at that git remote-v command in Slack, I see 11 thumbs up. So if you were successfully able to run that command, git remote-v, and you should see something that looks like this. I'm highlighting this in my terminal here. So you should see 2 origin URLs, one for fetch and one for push. So if you see those two, then we're in good shape. And I see 15, so I'm going to move forward. So cool. So now we've linked our local repo. We've told it where we want to store our files up in our GitHub. So the next thing we want to do is let's try to push our local information to GitHub. So the way that we're going to do that is with the command called git push origin master. Before I do that, let me make sure that I've added and committed everything. So just run a quick git status. And I think you guys should see this nothing to commit working directory clean. I don't think that we've added any more text and such. So just want to do a git status. If you do not see this message, if it does say that like you have untracked changes or something, go ahead and do a git add and a git commit. And I'll put that into Slack as well. So if you have perhaps unstaged or uncommitted changes, go ahead and run git add and then git commit. With a message like third commit or something. You can get creative with it. Cool. So Adam's asking, how do you check your local versus remote status? So we're going to see that shortly once we actually connect the two. So once we do like a pull and a push or vice versa, then that information will have been, transferred back and forth, and then we'll be able to see what, if we're out of sync with our GitHub version, if we're in sync, if our local version is ahead of what's in our GitHub repo. So we'll get some good messages here shortly with that, with that information. All right, so again, if you have any unstaged or uncommitted messages, go ahead and run that git add and git commit. Otherwise, for the rest of us, let's try this git push origin master command. And I will run that as well. And everyone should be getting an error message. So give me a thumbs up in Slack if you're getting an error message similar to what I have. So if someone wants to come on mic and answer this question, why are we getting this error?
Tells us in that error message that we need to fetch first.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Also, because of the README. Exactly. So right now, if you read the message, updates were rejected because our remote contains work that we do not have locally. Specifically, we created that README up in GitHub. So if you want to check your repo, we have this README. So in GitHub, I have a README, but no a.text. Locally, I have this a.text file, but I don't have a README. So we have a little bit of a out of sync situation. So this message is asking us to do a git pull. See how helpful git is? So let's go ahead and clean this up here. I'm going to put another screenshot into Slack. So let's do exactly what it asks us to do. So let's run a git pull origin master. So let's run that command. I just put it into Slack. I'll run it here locally. Cool. And so you guys should have this behavior. What should happen is when you run that command, since there's a conflict, the version control should automatically open up a merge message, which is kind of a record of the conflict or the merge error that we're about to fix. So it's kind of like maybe like an error ticket or a merge ticket or something. I don't know a better syntax for it. But we just want to make a record of why this is happening and what we're going to do to fix it. So this is an opportunity to create some sort of message for the future. If we ever want to look back at the history of this repo, we can see that we did merge this at some point because we had files in different places and such. So my question to you guys is, give me a thumbs up in Slack if this message opened up in Atom or Sublime. Rachel did not get a message. Got fatal, refusing to merge unrelated histories. Okay.
Yeah, I got a fatal, refusing to merge unrelated histories. Everything that you got, I got, except at the end it says fail, refusing to merge unrelated histories.
Okay. Yeah, we can take a look at that. So a couple of you guys didn't get a message. Interesting. So for those of you that didn't get a message, do me a favor. Refresh your GitHub repo and see if a.text was successfully pushed. So for those of you that didn't get any kind of merge error message, go back to your GitHub repo in the browser, refresh the repo and see if that a.text was successfully pushed up there. And then I'm going to come off share for a moment. And sorry, who got the fatal message?
I did. I think I was a couple people who did.
Yeah, let's. We haven't heard from Rachel today. Rachel, you want to come on mic and we'll take a look?
Sure. Yeah, I got the fatal message as well. It looks like the same as yours, but when but then at the bottom it has the fatal refusing to merge unrelated histories.
Okay. Do you mind sharing your screen? We'll take a peek. Yeah, because I think some other folks are probably getting something similar. Okay. So we did get push origin master. You got the errors. That's good. Fatal refusing to merge unrelated histories. Okay. So can you do a git status for me, Rachel? Okay. And if you refreshed, yeah, nothing should have been pushed up there. Can you do a git remote -v for me? Okay. How about a git log? Interesting. Why didn't it push up there for you?
Yeah, I haven't had any trouble with anything today except for this, so I'm not sure why.
Yeah, let's see. Refusing to merge unrelated histories. Let me Google that real quick and see. I'm going to ask that in Slack. Did you run a git pull before? Is everyone else having that issue? Okay, that's all right. So give me a thumbs down in Slack if you're getting the fatal, what did it say, Rachel? Refusing to merge unrelated histories, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna, yeah, 5 or 6 folks. Okay, yeah, hold tight 1 second. Let's see why this is. Yeah, that's interesting if several folks are getting this same message, so it must be a pretty common one. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna share my screen for a moment. Rachel, actually, Rachel, why don't you do this since you're already there? Let's debug this together. So all that I did is copy that line that says fatal refusing to merge unrelated histories. And let's do a Google search on that. So if we're all getting that same kind of similar error, this is probably a pretty common thing. So let's see. So yeah, so it looks like we have a pretty relatively recent one from like, the 21st of June. So let's click on that. Let's see. Can I continue this rebase? Yeah, so rebase is kind of a more intermediate git command. Rebase is when you, if you have different versions or different commit histories for 2 different repos, it's a way to kind of condense that commit history. That's what rebasing is. We shouldn't have to do that here though. So if we scroll down to, let's see what that says. So git merge. But I'm curious though, I don't know if this, can you scroll up just a little bit, Rachel? Does this refer to like a GitHub issue or just like a local Git? Yeah, so this may not be a GitHub. But you know what, let's try this. So if you scroll, sorry, go back real quick. Let's just try this because they did have a suggested kind of flag there at the bottom. So see where it says allow unrelated histories? Go ahead and copy that flag. And let's try your last command again. which I think was the, we were at the git pull, right? So go ahead and try that one more time. Let's see if that's helpful. So we did, okay, there's no tracking information for the current branch. Yeah, so that's asking you to specify the remote and the branch. So let's put git pull origin master and then that flag after it. You could also just hit the up arrow if you wanted and add it in there.
And add
I
what?
think the flag has to come before origin master. Because I put it in the git pull with the flag and then origin master after, and it worked.
Okay. So git pull flag origin master.
This is what you mean by flag?
Sorry, by flag I mean what you copied from Stack Overflow with the dashes, yeah.
Origin master.
Cool. Yeah, so that looks like it worked okay. Yeah, so I would just go ahead and save that file and close it out, your merge message. And if you guys are watching, so yeah, so this is the behavior, you know, I was expecting. So once that merge message opens, just go ahead and like save it and close it. And then the terminal, you notice that once Rachel closed it, it went ahead and finished that process. So Rachel, do an ls for me from the terminal. And so if you guys can see Rachel's screen, now that she went through that merge message issue, now she successfully pulled the README down. So now she has that README and she has the a.text. So Rachel, now we can try, now that we did the pull to get the stuff that we didn't have in GitHub, now we have that README file locally. Give me a git status.
Did she, sorry, I missed it, if she got that merge message pop up, because I got that. No.
Yeah, she did. And that's a, yeah. Yeah, go ahead and like save it if it needs to be saved, and then close it. Yeah, then once you close that message, the terminal should go ahead and, you know, proceed with the command. So yeah, Rachel, you look good. Nothing to commit. So go ahead and do that git push origin master one more time. Great, so that looks good. And so now if you go back to your GitHub repo and refresh, you should see that a.text file. Cool, very nice. So there you go, Rachel just did some tech support for us, so thank you. So is anyone else still having some conflicts?
I am. I like closed the message and nothing really happened. Was I just supposed to exit it out after it came up, or?
Let's take a look. Do you mind? Sorry, before you share your screen, give me a thumbs down if you're still having an issue. I think I saw. So Brad's having an issue, and Kelly, and maybe Sean. Okay, Kelly, yeah, let's take a peek.
Well, it was right here, but I just exited, or the messages came up right here.
Sure, okay. So make sure that file is saved, and then exit out of that file. Go ahead and close it.
Just save it where it is?
Yeah, and then close it.
And then
if you go back to the terminal.
Yeah, my terminal's like stopped.
Yeah, did you try to run that git push while it was kind of in a frozen state?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. So do this for me. Do a Control-C, and that should get you back to the prompt. Okay, now where were we? So run that last command one more time, the git pull origin master. And again, you can hit the up arrow if it's helpful for you, just to go back to your previous commands. Fatal refusing to merge unrelated histories. Okay, great. So this is exactly what Rachel had. So look in Slack, and Christine was kind enough to put in the command we need to run. So if you scroll down, Right there, see where Christine pasted in that,
Oh, get pull.
yeah, with the allowed unrelated histories. So Rachel, if you were in IT or something, I would suggest that you bill us for like at least 30 minutes, an hour of your time for that one. Just go ahead and round it up.
Okay.
Cool. So it looks like it's going to open it back up in Atom. That's good. Cool. So it's hard for, I can't really tell. If you need to save the file, go ahead and save it and then close it out. So that file, that merge message, if you want to put in like some more detail or some other message other than the default message, kind of describing what you did, that would be the time to do it. So just so you guys know.
So what am I supposed to do now? Is something else supposed to come up, or?
Yeah, so you closed the file. Well, sorry, go back to, I see in Atom that you still have a merge message there on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it keeps coming.
Okay, go ahead and close that. Oh, that's interesting.
It came up multiple times.
Yeah, maybe just close out of Atom. I don't know why it's still persisting. Cool, so there you go. So if you go back to your terminal, so once you like officially close that file, the process went ahead and completed. So now if you do an ls to check all your files, cool.
Okay.
So that's successfully pulled. So now what do you want to run to go ahead and get all that data back up to the cloud, up to GitHub?
Push, git push origin master.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so try that. Yeah, now if you refresh your page.
Okay, yeah, that works.
Nice.
Thank you. Sweet.
You're welcome. Sorry, and who else was having some difficulty?
I am, and it's the same thing that they were, you just went over with them, and I was watching very closely. I don't know what I'm missing here. That same pop-up window came up from Atom to merge branch master, and yeah, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here.
Sure. I'm gonna put, so you guys, if you're in a good spot, I'm gonna put some information. If you guys wanna kind of read ahead, I'm gonna put some information just to kind of get a sense of what Git branching is all about. So I'm gonna paste in a link to their documentation. And just kind of skim it over. We're gonna go through this stuff, but just so you're a little bit familiar. So if you wanna go ahead and check that out, and I'll hop on here. So there you go. So go ahead and check out that link and just kind of at your leisure. Sean, do you want to share your screen? We'll take a peek.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that looks... Okay, so you're getting that fatal error as well. So this is what Rachel and Kelly got. So go ahead and completely close out of that merge message file, if you will.
Oops.
Yeah, for some reason, Kelly's, it wouldn't completely close out for some reason. Okay, so do you remember what command we ran to fix Rachel and Kelly's?
Yeah, I actually had put it up here. Let's take a look.
Okay, so go ahead and hit save if you need to, and close out that file again, the merge message file. Okay, would you mind, sorry, the bottom of your terminal is a little cut off on my screen. Would you mind moving up your terminal just a smidge?
Mm-hmm.
Just a smidge. Okay, good. So it looks like that's okay. So how do we check the files in a current directory or repo? What's the command? What's the command to see all of the files contained in a directory? Good. Cool. So you have your README. So you're looking You're looking pretty good. So it looks like you created a test repo directory in test repo.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
That's fine. No worries. Go ahead and do a git push origin master, and let's see if that'll work for you. Cool. Okay, so go to your GitHub repo and hit refresh, and let's make sure that that worked successfully.
This one right here, where I'm at?
Yeah. So that's where you're trying to push your local files. There you go. So yeah, so you pushed your a.txt in that test repo folder directory as well. Cool.
Okay, sure.
Very good.
Mark,
Yes.
I still have problem. I don't see a.txt in my GitHub.
Okay. Do you want to
Can
share your
I-
screen? Sure.
Yes. Okay, so I got this message, the merge message,
Mhm.
and then this is my terminal. I don't know what am I doing wrong here, or what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. The whole purpose of this exercise, because I wanted your stuff to blow up. So this is all good. No, so what I want you guys to do, go into Atom where you see that merge message.
Okay.
Close out of that message. So close it out. You can close the file or close Atom.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so if you recall, that's what we just did with Rachel, what we just did with Kelly, what we just did with Sean. So it's the same situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I refresh this page now, will I see the README file? Oh, the file?
So what did we do after we took care of that error message? What command do we still need to run to get those files up to GitHub?
Git push command.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so go ahead and run that.
What was that? Git push origin master?
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Very nice. Okay, so now if you refresh your browser, you should see that file successfully pushed up there.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like I said, I put that into the lesson on purpose because sometimes that'll happen if you click, like create it or instantiate a README in your repo. If you tell GitHub to go ahead and make it, and then if you don't have that file locally, sometimes that initial connection, sometimes you'll get that error message. It's pretty common, but hopefully now that you guys have seen it, hopefully you have a little bit of a sense of why we got that. And actually, would anybody want to kind of teach back to us why we got that message and how we fixed it? Does somebody want to come off mic and walk us through that? Dana is smiling.
Where the files were not properly connected and merged in the same project. So that just throw it out of sync, and it all needs to match for it to come through.
Yeah, that's a good description. Does anybody want to elaborate on what Sean just said? Sure, Dana. Sure, Dana.
Information was changed upstream, so you needed to really do a pull request to your local. And because you didn't do that, it has a merge error.
Hey, Dana, I think your mic is like faced up towards your head.
It is. No wonder. Thank you. So the information upstream doesn't match. It's newer, contains newer information than the information downstream. So you have to merge the information downstream before you can then put in a change, something like that.
That's a good description. If we're getting really semantically technical, do we have an upstream in our test repo? What do we have if we do a git remote -v? Do we have an upstream? What did we pull from actually?
We have an origin master.
Right. Yeah. So remember, what's a situation when we would have an upstream URL?
When we forked from somebody else.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so that was a really good description, except I wouldn't necessarily use that term upstream. We're just pulling, we had a README file in our origin, in our GitHub, and we didn't have that locally. So we had files that, you know, one or the other didn't have, and so we had to just go through that process. And again, I wanted to demonstrate this because as you work in groups, as you work on teams, this is something, again, as you guys get into the good practice and the good Git workflow habits, hopefully you guys will, you know, pretty much avoid these merge conflict issues, but they do arise, and they're not anything to be, you know, like intimidated by. But that's essentially what's happening. You have some work here that you don't have here, and you just need to figure that out. We'll take another look at this particular example. We literally had two different files. Occasionally when you're working on a team, let's say that you have two people trying to work on that a.txt file. And then you both try to push to this repo, and then like you both have different versions of that file at that point. And that's a pretty typical thing that happens. We'll take a look at how to manage merge conflicts like on a single file. We'll take a look at that a little bit later.
Is the repo on GitHub? Let's say I've created the file on my desktop. Why isn't that the origin master? Then I'm pushing it up to GitHub.
Well, so you're...
Whatever file I create first on GitHub is just the repo master. Origin.
Yeah, I'm going to put it into... Actually, I'm going to put this into Slack, but does someone want to kind of take a stab at Dana's question? Why don't we call the thing on your computer the origin?
Because
it's not our remote.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of the terminology that's used, your machine is referred to as like the local, and then GitHub is the origin. And I think kind of how that came about is because probably like back in the day, the idea is that you were cloning a project or a directory or something. You were cloning it from GitHub so you could work on it and share a code. And I think that terminology just stuck. So yeah, so anything remote, anything GitHub-y is going to be the origin. And then whatever is on your machine is going to be considered the local. Yeah.
The local clone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But technically we didn't clone your repo, right? We didn't do a clone here.
Right. That's why I had a question of which is the origin.
Well, in either sense, if you do, so origin is independent of whether you cloned or whether you're pushing new data. Origin refers to GitHub, period. So whether you clone, for example, your class repo, whether you like clone and fork your class repo, or in this example, where you had local work that you wanted to push and save in GitHub. So you created an empty repo, and then locally you connected it to your local file structure. And you did that at git add origin remote command. I'll paste that back in.
Yeah, origin is not referring to the reference of the original content that you created. It's just referencing the remote repo, whatever that happens to be. So
first instance of the remote repo is the origin.
Right.
The first instance.
So
Think of it like location. It's like GPS, like latitude 0, longitude 0. That's origin, right? So that's GitHub. That's origin. It's not necessarily like original, the first copy. Like, I don't know if that helps.
Those are really good examples. So we have about 2 minutes before lunch. I want to respect you guys' time. I have kind of a little digital whiteboard that I can draw on. I'll get that set up and maybe try to draw you guys a diagram after lunch. I'm really horrible at that thing. I'm not very good at like drawing. So I'm gonna like just try to give you a quick and dirty example on this piece of paper of like the difference between GitHub and maybe like your local version of the code. Don't laugh at my my crudeness here. Oh man, this is bad. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll do a better job of this after lunch, but oh boy, this is nasty. So I don't know if you can see, but at the top of this drawing, I have a little cloud with GitHub in the middle. So as you can guess, that means that GitHub lives in the cloud. Very dynamic drawing here. And you can see that up there with the GitHub cloud, right there to the side, that's always referred to as the origin. Then down here, there's like a little, I did like a little line in the middle just to kind of, that's the interwebs, that's the difference between like the cloud and then you in your home on your computer. So then you have your laptop or desktop there at the bottom. And then that's always going to be referred to as like your local machine. So that's referred to as local, and then anything up in GitHub is referred to as origin. So whether we like clone a project or whether we create an empty repo to push the project up to, if you run that git remote-v, I'll put this into Slack. If you run git remote-v, you should always see origin for fetch, and push. And again, if you go to remote-v, that's the command to see the remote URLs. Wrong place, Mark. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just sent that to Christine. I'm in the wrong channel. What a dummy. So you should always see origin for fetch and push when you run git remote-v. And this is definitely like, sometimes I feel like, again, you know how like it's Christmas time and you're going to set up your tree and you go in the closet and get out your lights, and it's just a big ball of tangled like garbage and you don't really want to entangle them. And sometimes that's what this feels like. It's like all of these terms and the remote versus local and such. So sometimes it feels like things get a little crossed, but I think you guys will get comfortable with the terminology in the process for sure the more we do this. But I hope that this morning, just creating a new repo locally, then creating a new empty repo on GitHub that we could push that data to, hopefully that process is a little bit more familiar and it's going to become more comfortable every time you do it. So with that, we are a little bit over time. My apologies. So have a great lunch, and we'll come back, let's say 2:32 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to hop into CSS. So something a little more visual, a little bit more fun, and then you guys will have outcomes after the lesson this afternoon. Okay, so have a great lunch. We'll see you at 2:32. We'll see you soon.